Hi there guys, I've got a product review for you and it's going to be Blitz Bowl Ultimate Edition. And why, GW, just why? You announced Blitz Bowl so long ago and released it. I think it's 6 years ago now, and that's great. I mean, the problem with Blood Bowl is, although it's a fantastic game, and all props to the master Jervis Johnson for its creation, it is a bit of a toughie to introduce to non-gamers. It's quite intimidating, and B, it takes ages to play. You've got like precision positioning, loads of in-depth and comprehensive rules that simulate all sorts of the intricacy of the game that it is very loosely emulating. You've got special skills, fan factor, kickoff tables, injury tables. It was a game of yesteryear, even though the more recent editions have updated it a little bit and streamlined some of the things, stripped a few things back. It was nonetheless quite the undertaking as a casual game. Certainly it's not anything that you could get out of the way in less than an hour. It took quite a while to play. From my perspective, it also had limitations, like each player activating once and only once. It didn't really feel like a fast-paced sports game, Blood Bowl. It had quite a chess-like feel to it. People just used the cage formation all the time. It was kind of staid, I would say. So, yeah, enter Blitz Bowl. GW announced Blitz Bowl. It was a leaner, stripped-down version of the game, designed, to be quicker, more dynamic play. Absolutely fantastic. Thanks, GW. Awesome. What do you mean it's not being released in the UK? Oh, I mean, it's fine. They'll get around to it eventually. I said 6 years ago. And then they released Season 2. And still no sign of a copy for us Brits. And then the Ultimate Edition. And I was like, yep, now that's it. It's fine. They're just getting around to the Ultimate Edition. Now we'll get it in the UK. They won't just keep it exclusive to Germany and Barnes & Noble in the US. And nope. So when it got to 2024 and I finally launched the gaming channel that I'd had planned for ages. I'd had a blog for like nearly 10 years and I thought, let's go the YouTube route. I've had a website, I've had a blog, we'll try YouTube. And I finally realised basically that GW were not going to give us Blitz Bowl. It just wasn't going to happen. I mean, why would they? It's not like they're a British company or anything. It's stuff like that what makes me a grumpy grog, not a gamer, innit? I decided to take matters into my own hands and I imported a copy. Now, there are drop shipping options that you can do. You can sign up with a company that will sort of ship a load of stuff over from the US and stuff, but I wasn't sure about customs. I didn't want to make an account and things like that. So in the end, I ordered it from Aussie's Collectibles in Australia. I got the Ultimate Edition. It cost me as much in postage as it did in the cost of the actual game. So it cost me £60 in total. But the Australian customs is quite lax. So I got it, no customs, no additional fees to pay from Royal Mail. So I was like, yes, great. Now I can review it. Yay, awesome. And a pox on you, GW, for still not making this game available to the rest of the world. Still not out in the UK. Seriously, all of the poxes. Right, so let's have a quick look at this then, shall we? See if it's worth for you to import one for yourself. Now, Blitz Bowl is the creation of a certain James Hewitt. This is a well-known name with an amazing pedigree. Gore Chosen, Silver Tower, the New Necromunda, Adeptus Titanicus. So, can Blitz Bowl live up to his usual standard? Let's look at the product. It comes in a much smaller box than Blood Bowl, as you would expect. It's pretty compact. Opening it up and getting the rules book and board, we're complete with dugouts and a throw-in template. And get that all out of the way and you'll see your sprues. Now, there's not many of them. You've got 12 models total. It's push fit. They're like standard Blood Bowl frames, push fit. It's putting it all together. It took no time. And I didn't even need the instructions that were in the back of the book. Noobs are going to have no problems at all. It's very, very beginner friendly. Just be careful with a few of the fragile bits, like the skaven tails. And also watch out for the spiky bits, like the balls and stuff, because they are pointy. Other than that, you've got 2 decks of cards. One of these decks of cards features all the Blood Bowl teams up until, I think, the Lizard Men is the most recent ones it had. That's really good. That's great, because I've got quite a few Blood Bowl teams, so it means I can swap most of them in and out, like the Necromantic one I've got, and you know, my missus has got the Nurgle team, and I've got Dark Elves and Noblemans, and she's got Black Orcs, I think, and stuff like that. So what these cards also negate is the need for any team building at all. There's no gold crowns, there's no team factors, no rerolls, anything like that. Now, if this seems like a step too far stripping back the game, bear with me, because I will get to some major differences that Blitz Bowl does to Blood Bowl that will make these changes work. It's very clever. You'll also notice that the strat line is being stripped down. There's no special abilities. Again, this makes more sense in a second. There are some special rules, like each player that's not a linesman gets a special rule that makes sense for that player. So blitzers, for example, get to re-roll the block dice. Throwers pick up the ball moving over it anyway rather than just one way as per the standard rules. And catchers get a free run move when they receive the ball. So, you know, there's these little ones that are going to allow you to implement some tactics in, and a savvy player will use these tactically and strategically. Getting all that out of the way, looking at the other deck, you'll see that apart from a few training cards to get, you know, beginners up and running, they're basically achievement cards. They're challenge cards that you can claim throughout your turn for doing certain things. And on the back of those cards is a benefit. It's a boon that will benefit your team on either a one-turn basis or maybe for the rest of the game. It's a really cool mechanic. It adds back a lot of the tactical gameplay. Another thing I'm just going to quickly mention is the insert. I love games that go away tidily. Thought has been taken into how this will go back in the box and go back into your collection nice and tidily. And this is that game. It's got little sections for the models to go into, even once they're assembled. It's got a section for your dice and your little tokens and stuff. It's got inserts for the dugouts, the board. It's and the cards and everything. It's really, really great. Nice one, GW, on that basis. Shame we can't get it in the UK. So, having a look at the rules, what makes this game so very different from Blood Bowl? You only get 6 players per team, and they all start in the end zone, in the touchdown zone, eliminating any need for like the tactical setups that you would have. There's no kickoff. The ball kind of pops up through a trapdoor in the middle of the board. The pitch is also a lot smaller than the normal Blood Bowl one, so you don't have to go as far to get to the end zones. And there's a few like impassable columns in the middle of the board that you can use tactically in your positioning. You can kind of like, you know, almost like little extra linesmen or something. Now in Blood Bowl, obviously what you do is you activate one of your dudes one at a time until they're all activated. And this is completely different. In one of my favourite changes from Blood Bowl, you get 3 actions in your round. Now, if you wish, you can give all 3 actions to the same player. You just can't do the same action twice. So you can't, you know, leg it down the length of the pitch in one turn and score from one end zone to the other kind of thing. The actions that you can take depend on the status of your player at that time. If they're prone, they can only stand up. If they're in reserve, they can only come onto the board in their end zone. If they're marked, i.e. adjacent to an opposing player, they can only sidestep to become unmarked. It's a 1 space move that means you must end open, or block. Obviously, if you stand next to somebody, you can always block. We'll get to blocking in a second. If you're open, so not marked, then you can run. You can mark, which is like a 2-place move that puts you adjacent to another player, because you can't run adjacent to another player. Or you can throw. But this is the great thing about the game, and what's so very clever about it is, if you are marked, there's nothing to stop you sidestepping to become unmarked, and then running, and then throwing, for example. So you can do these really cool little combos, and that's how you score your touchdowns. So imagine if you could sidestep 2 spaces to get out of the tackle zones, as there were. Not that there are tackle zones in this game. And then run to get down the pitch, and then throw it. And if you was able to throw it to a catcher, that catcher will then get a free run move, which would allow you to get further movement. So there's these cool little tactical shenanigans that you can do that I really like, and finding these is how you're going to win the game. Now, when you score the touchdown, you get 4 points. So it's no like one point for a touchdown. There's no turn limit in this game. The coach can replace one of the challenge cards. You have 3 challenge cards laid out that you can claim over the course of the turn. And if you manage to claim all 3, then you actually get an extra 2 points. But it's really hard to do. Coach can replace one of those every turn. And essentially when you run out of challenge cards, the game ends. So, you know, with a deck of 40 cards, that could be quite a long game. Obviously, if you want to play a shorter game, just use half the cards. You know, that's one of the great things. It's very malleable in that way. Now, when you score a touchdown, that player is put in the reserves, so you lose that player. You have to bring him back on using a reserve action. But as you can use the rest of your actions in your turn, even after you've scored, you can easily bring him back on if you've got an action to do so. If there's no ball in play at the start of the turn, new one pops through the trapdoor. If a player happens to be on that trapdoor, then they're injured, off the board, back in reserves. One side of the board has one trapdoor, one side of the board has two trapdoors. We'll go over blocking quickly. Blocking has been greatly simplified. With the new movement rules, there's no need for blitzing or anything like that, so you just literally roll the block dice. You normally have one block dice, regardless. There's no like strength or anything like that, you just get one block dice. If you have two players marking the opposing player, then you get two block dice. It's that simple. It doesn't matter if one of those players is then marked by another player, that's all gone. If you've got two players on one player, then you get more block dice. And blitzers get to reroll the block dice, as I said. If you roll skulls or bad results, then you just don't get to take any more actions with that player, but you don't lose your turn, you just carry on. If they get hit, then they take an armour roll. If the armour roll is failed, then they're off the pitch until they get brought back on with a reserve turn. There's no injuries, there's no death. You're just out to the next turn, and then if the coach wants them back on, they're going to have to give one of their free actions up to do reserves, unless you've battered them so much that they're at their reserve limit. So like, I think it's 4 for most teams. If there's 4 players off in reserve, you automatically get to bring one back on. So, you can't win just by virtue of just getting all the players off the pitch. They will get a free one back. So that's a broad breakdown of the rules, covering the changes, what's happened. There's also a few optional rules in the back of the book, like you've got fouls, a few different types of pitches, throwing teammates, stuff like that, but they're kept optional, you don't have to put it in. So, overall, what do I think? I think it really works. The changes that have been made make it a lot easier to play while still allowing for tactical play. Those challenge cards are not easy to claim, but they do give you good rewards that mix things up in the game. Being able to activate a player more than once is pretty much all I ever wanted from Blood Bowl since I played Mantic's Death Ball, which has that kind of concept in it. It opens so much more tactical possibilities, and it really opens up new options. With the lack of tackle zones and checks to escape them, the game just feels really more action-based. No turnover means no more feel-bad moments where you make a mistake and your opponent goes, "Oh, turnover, I get to take my turn now and punish you." The minimum amount of tests that are in the game makes it feel that the dice punish you far less, which is good because you don't have any rerolls in this game. Although there is a card you can give, like if your opponent's a real noob, you can give them a card that gives them a one in a game reroll, which is, let's face it, basically nothing. I mean, I played a game against Kirsty the other day and my thrower missed 80% of his throws. It was ridiculous. You can't do anything with the dice like that. But on the plus side, because you only throw and you don't have to roll to receive, you've only got the one dice roll to try and do. So again, it balances it. It is very good. James has done a very good job with this game, and I personally really enjoy playing it. You can get it out of the way real quick. As I say, you can easily modify the game, and we're going to talk about that now, because as good as I think this is, there are a couple of things that I would change, or at least try. I mean, you know me, I don't find anything perfect. So although this is a very positive video, there's a couple of things I would change. So one thing I would have really liked would have been a special rule for each team. I can understand taking the special abilities away because they're a pain in the arse, looking them up all the time. What's this? What's that? What's this? But I think something to add flavour to each team would have been really cool. Something for the rats to make them more Skaven-like. And just to give each team a little bit of flavour, because all the teams are quite similar in most ways. There's a couple of differences, but there's nothing like individuality that Blood Bowl had for the different races and the different teams. So part of it is that they haven't got the big guys. So there's no Croxagore, for example, in the Lisman team. So that's where a little bit of that flavour goes missing. But I think, yeah, if you just put one faction rule in for each different team, I think that would have been really nice touch. That would have mixed things up a little bit. Another thing that I would have liked is rules to do a league. It's so quick to play these games that you could easily play 2 or 3 games in a row, which makes it perfect for league play. It really does. And there's nothing like that in there. I mean, hey, GW, maybe you do an expansion or something, I don't know. If you do, like maybe release it in the UK. But yeah, like league rules, like link games, that would have been cool. And the other thing that I'm going to bring up is actually make me sound like a little bit of a hypocrite, because I just said that it was great there's no tackle zones or dodge tests or anything. Kind of. It's really easy. If you're near the opponent's end zone, within sort of 6 spaces or so, it's really easy to just sidestep out, run into the end zone. Unless your opponent's been very, very cautious and clever with their positioning, you can just run straight through gaps, especially if you have managed to knock a couple of his players off the board. Every game that I have played has ended with scores in the 20s or 30s, which is like 5 or 6 touchdowns being scored either side, and it just seems a little bit too easy to just jump out, get to the end zone using those multiple actions you can use per player. I would say, I mean, we're not talking about tackle zones back in and agility rolls and that kind of stuff, because again, this is meant to be simple, but maybe having you fail on the roll of a 1 or something. I don't know. I'm not a games designer like Mr. Hewitt. I can't say for sure whether this will work, whether it unbalance the game, but yeah, I might try it in one game. You maybe fail on the 1, and then that player can't take any actions anymore and the ball scatters. You would still have another player to get the ball, if you haven't used all 3 actions. There's not enough risk, in my opinion, when it comes to that kind of thing. When you jump out of being next to players, I think there should be some kind of risk. But that is one of the really cool things about the system. The way that it's been presented, the way that it's been developed, means it's really easy to just chuck a house rule in there. You want to, try a game and put the going for it rule back in, where you can roll to see if you make an extra space. Yeah, why not do it? You'll soon find out whether or not it unbalances the game. So, final thoughts. Is Blitz Bowl worth buying? Yes. Absolutely 100% yes. If you can get it without importing. It's an amazing iteration of the game, streamlining all those base rules and presenting something that's really dynamic, frantic and fast-paced, while still being tactical enough to have some depth for veterans. The original game, while a deserved classic, can feel a little bit chess-like, a little bit mechanical and clunky, and it doesn't always feel like the sport that it was meant to represent. Blitz Bowl does. The challenge card system does a really good job of inserting back a lot of the elements that have been stripped out, and as a pick-up-and-play casual game, Blitz Bowl really does take some beating. It's my go-to game. If I want like a quick game with Kirsty, I'm just like, look, let's play Blitz Bowl. She loves it, she's getting good at it, and we have a good game, and it doesn't take absolutely ages. Now, if you have to import it, that really is more difficult to say. What is there really in this that you don't get in Blood Bowl? Obviously, you can easily use the models you've already got from Blood Bowl. You can get photocopies of the team cards pretty easily, for Blitz Bowl, I would say. And probably the book. You could easily make like a transparent overlay for the pitch to represent the smaller pitch. No problem at all. The bit that you would not be able to replicate would be the challenge cards. And you do need those to make it Blitz Bowl. It would not be the same game without them at all. At 30 quid, this is an instant pickup. At 60 quid, when you've got to import it, maybe not so much. Like, I don't mind. I kind of did it with a view to reviewing it for the channel anyway. So if the channel ever makes any money, it's like a business expense type thing. And it is a great game. It really is. Come on, GW, do us a favour. Release it over here. I mean, it's a great game, and James's work does deserve to be appreciated by all. So that's my end on it. It's a great game, love it. If you're in the US, buy it, it's brilliant. If you're in Germany, buy it, brilliant. If you go to the US, buy a copy from Barnes & Noble, it's brilliant. You'll have to sum up on yourself whether or not it's worth importing. Maybe you can get a couple of copies if you can get away with it without the customs and split the cost between a mate or something. It is great, and that's what makes it even more frustrating that GW doing this bollocks where they just refuse to release it in the UK. So if you're listening to GW, I know you're listening to me, then do it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.